Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Double Coverage, the premier NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. I'm John J. II here with Musa. Musa, how are we doing today, brother?
Pretty good. Got a lot to talk about today, so excited for this one.
Me too, man. Got a lot to talk about. We got 2 weeks of stuff to talk about. We're not going to get too much into 2 weeks ago. We're going to more talk about the previous week. Took a little bit of a hiatus. Had a little vacation into Quintana Roo in Mexico. So I had a great time down there. Got a little bit of a skin tan, suntan going. So hopefully it doesn't fizzle out too soon going into the winter months. But it was nice to get away, but we're getting back into reality. So I'm happy to be back, happy to be back in the booth, talking about some NFL football here. So I'm excited. We got a big slate ahead of us, and there's stuff that's continuously developing as we begin to cover the stories that we're going to get into tonight. But the first thing I want to talk about with you, Musa, is the Week 8 Broncos win over the Jaguars in London, 21-17 win. Is this a turning point for the Broncos? Is this a turning point for Russell Wilson and the Broncos offense, or is this just a spur of the moment type of win over the Jags?
I think it is, in some sense, a turning point. So, obviously, I watched that game because I am a fan of the Broncos, big fan of Graham Glasgow. And speaking of Graham Glasgow, so in that game, their center Leonard Queshenberry got injured, and Graham was actually stepping at center. He's played guard this year, but they had him at center that game. And with him at center, that line looked good. They were blocking a lot better. They were giving Russ more time in the pocket, and I think that allowed Russ to be a little bit more comfortable, be able to play a little better, and just giving him more time. So I think them figuring out this line shuffle has been great for them, and it should help them going forward in the future.
Yeah, I know that's something that Russell Wilson's really been concerned with, and that's a big reason why he wanted to get out of Seattle, is because he was getting hit too much. he was getting sacked too many times, and he just felt like he didn't have enough time in the pocket. I don't think he meshed too well with the linemen in Seattle, at least in his later times with the Seahawks. And that was kind of why he wanted to get out of there. We've still seen him get sacked quite a bit here with this Broncos team, especially early on, and they haven't had the best start, as we've all known. We all had these big expectations for Russell Wilson, and we expected them to play well and him to come into Denver and really revive that team. And it hasn't really been the case as of late, but since this win over the Jaguars, a good Jaguars team, mind you, a good Jaguars team just came back and beat the Raiders in surprising fashion. The Jaguars aren't the Jaguars that they used to be. It's not like they're the dregs of the NFL beer glass anymore. They are a real team, and they're really starting to come around too, as we've seen a lot of other teams that were more towards the bottom do. We've seen a lot of those teams, i.e. the Giants, the Jets, just to name a few. But, this is a good sign. This is a good, win. It's a confident win, maybe not a blowout win, but I think it's a win's a win. At this point in the season, a win's a win. You want to be putting those W's in the win column. I know me as a fantasy football guy, I want to be putting wins in the win column no matter what. I've been taking a lot of L's, let me tell you, in the last couple of weeks. So not really too happy about that, but that's neither here nor there. If you're the Broncos and you're Russell Wilson, you want to be putting wins in the win column and be able to please not only the Broncos fans and the Colorado, Denver fan base, but those lifelong Russell Wilson fans that have been around for a long time. So that's what you're looking for. That's what you're expecting. I guess anything else to kind of attribute to that, or where do the Broncos go from here?
Obviously, this year seems to be out of the picture, and there's a chance to still make it, but I think what they really need to be is just focusing on next year and getting a nice win streak going, getting a nice mount to the end of the season, and ending the season off on a high note. That way, they can go into next year and take off running. And just kind of building that chemistry with Russ and everything. And so just giving Russ that confidence that he really needs. So I just, yeah.
Exactly. He needs that confidence. If they want to win games, he needs that confidence. And he has to have that confidence in himself. And not only as a quarterback, but as a leader of the team. He has to be able to lead and command those that are playing with him on that side of the ball, the defense. He's got to have a significant hand in the defense as well, as far as getting in people's heads and saying, hey, get out there and get the job done for us. The defense and the offense have to both play well for teams to win games, especially getting into the second half of the season here. This is where wins are worth even more. They're worth double and a half that what they were in the first half of the season. So they're going to be looking to get some wins here in the next couple weeks and really turn the boat around in the right direction for this Denver Broncos team. So we're looking forward to that. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Lions-Packers 15-9 win in Ford Field. Rodgers had some choice comments after the game in the Pat McAfee show, and you got the jersey on there, the Hutchinson jersey. He came out, showed out, had a pick, and also some others came out in the defense. I got to give accolades to the defense of the Detroit Lions, and I guess what do you have to say? What do you have to say about this Detroit Lions performance, this win in Detroit against this Packers team?
A great win. I did not expect it. When I count the Lions out, they show up. This Packers team sucks. Let's be honest here.
It's true.
But they're still the Packers at the end of the day. It's still Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day. As bad as their record is, they're not a bad team. So getting a win over a division rival that you normally lose to, it's pretty common for the Lions to lose to the Packers, no questions asked, besides if it's the end of the season when they have all their starters sitting out for the playoffs. So going off this past 12 years of just dominance over the Lions, it's good to see the Lions come out there and win the whole game. They were with them the whole game, and they put the game away. They had the lead in the fourth. I was nervous. You were nervous. We thought it was going to be the same old Lions and lose in the fourth, but they put the game away.
Yeah, they got the job done. A couple goal line stands that resulted in picks for the Detroit defense. I was impressed to see that, especially in lieu of the loss of their defensive coordinator who has been fired. Aubrey Pleasant has been fired, and if Dan Campbell was the one taking over as a DC for the Lions that day, then they were really biting kneecaps off because they were hitting hard, they were getting picks, causing Aaron Rodgers to throw interceptions. They were giving him pressure in the pocket. And that's the defense. That's the mentality that we have to see, especially if the offense is underperforming. And we've seen the offense more or less slow down, but they've had to compensate in past weeks. And they've been doing a good job at it as far as putting points on the board. They're the highest scoring team, going into week 7. So it's like you kind of look at that objectively and kind of say, hey, this offense, they got it figured out. They can score points, they can put points on the board. But if the defense isn't performing and they're letting other teams hang with them and score at least as many points as them, if not more points, and that's why they're 1-6. Now they're 2-6. You look at that and you do the numbers and do the calculations there and kind of see how that happens. But if you have them work together, even if that offense is underperforming, if the defense is outperforming the offense, then you're going to see wins come into the win column. So that's they just got to keep doing that. Something I got to ask you though. So Aaron Rodgers will talk about his choice comments. He said that that was a bad loss against that team, against that Lions team. He kept referring to the Lions as that team, those guys across the pond, right? But it was a little bit more demeaning. It was a little bit more insulting than that to Lions fans, and Lions fans were up in arms about it. They had to say, you know what? Why is he has no real room to talk? Even if Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, if he's still Aaron Rodgers, yes, he's getting old. He's one of the grandfathers of the NFL at this point, him and Brady. But he's still playing. He's still playing at the highest level. He's playing with the young guys, so he's got to be able to perform and get the job done. And everything falls on him at the end of the day. I personally don't think that Rodgers had the room to say that. I mean, you're looking at a Packers team that has a very similar record now than that the Lions have, right? You're across the pond. You're in the NFC North. Who cares? You're looking at similar records, similar situations for this year. We're talking about here and now, and I maybe that came from Rodgers and his track record with the Lions in the past, but I just think that choice of words was out of turn for Rodgers. What do you think?
I mean, to Rodgers' point, they did drive down the field a few times, and he did make a few bad throws, underthrown some. So there was a couple of throws where Aaron Rodgers was at fault, and it wasn't as much as the Lions playing super great and Aaron Rodgers playing bad. But you got to give credit where credit's due. That's what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady will lose. He'll take accountability. He'll be like, if Tom Brady was in Aaron Rodgers' shoes right now, he'd be like, yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, he made some good plays. The Lions made some good plays. These young guys are making some good plays. He gives them credit, but he also takes accountability. Rodgers can never take accountability. It's always this, that. He can't give anyone else praise, and that's why I think a lot of people don't like him. And I can't remember who I saw it from. He was saying, if Aaron Rodgers came out and said it that way, you can't be mad at him because he's admitting that the team played as much as the team didn't play well, which I can agree with. The Lions didn't play super great, and it goes life-changing gameplay, but and Aaron Rodgers made some mistakes. But if he came out and admitted to making mistakes, but also some good plays in the Lions, people wouldn't be after him. People wouldn't be upset with him. People wouldn't think he's the douchebag he is.
Yeah, I agree. And Aaron Rodgers really does have that douchebag mentality, and people, and with that mentality, you're gonna have people that hate you in one category. You're gonna have people that love you because you're like that. So it really just kind of depends what tree you fall from, as far as if you're an apple of the Packers tree, you're not going to fall far from the tree. But if you're an apple from the Lions tree, you're going to fall quite far from that Packers tree. Just because not to mention the lifelong hatred that both of these NFC North teams have, but you look at the history of Aaron Rodgers winning games, getting to Super Bowls, and having these different types of success, and I think that Aaron Rodgers himself is kind of reminiscing on that and wishing that he had that. And there's a certain standard. Let's be honest. The Packers are a win now program. We use that term quite often in the Gin College podcast. And we talk about how these win now programs, if they're not winning, they're going to be held accountable. They're going to be held under a different standard than a lot of these other teams that maybe aren't used to winning. They don't have to face that. So it is what it is. Got a comment here from Reversal Gaming. Lions defense showed up. Aaron Dodgers in his own head with the drama. I think that's a misspell there. Yeah, he corrected himself. Reversal's been having a little bit of trouble with the keyboard lately, but they did show up. Aaron's in his own head, and like Musa said, you got to take accountability. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you're the Packers, just like Russell Wilson and that Broncos defense, if they're not performing, that a lot of that falls on Russell Wilson. Even if it's not directly, it's falling under the umbrella of the Denver Broncos. In this case, it's falling under the umbrella of the Green Bay Packers, and that falls on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. He does have to put the team on his back. He is an older quarterback. He's a grandfather of the NFL. We already said that. You still got to put the team on your back. If you're taking the field every Sunday, Thursday, Monday, whenever you're taking the field, you got to put your team on the back. You got to get the job done regardless of the scenario, regardless of the current state of your team, your record. You got to throw all that out the window. Dan Campbell's done a hell of a job of doing that, facing adversity and coming out there every week, biting kneecaps. What do you got to say about Dan Campbell, Musa?
I'm going to go touch on the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Okay,
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This past 3 years, Aaron Rodgers has had full control over this team. He's gotten the people he's wanted. He's held out. He's gotten the contracts he wanted. And the team fell apart under him taking control and taking more of a say in this team. And I think that is probably affecting him a lot. He kind of got more reins over this team, and the team fell apart, and now he's suffering the consequences of that. He wanted that giant contract. They lost Devontae Adams. They lost Zadarius Smith, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So they've lost quite a few players just because he wanted the large contract, and it's showing. So he complains about not having receivers, but he could have had his number one receiver with him, Devontae Adams, if he just took a smaller contract and didn't go for even more money that he doesn't need. So at the end of the day, I can't fault him. His criticism of not having receivers is kind of BS just because of the fact that he is partly to blame for it. And I think he is partly to blame for this whole team falling apart. And like a lot of people said, if they're winning, no one's going to talk about it. They were winning last year. No one's gonna. You can't come after him when he's the MVP. You can't come after them when they're winning games, even if he's making the team worse. But now that the team is 3-6,
yep,
and the Lions are 2-6, so the NFC North is very much open, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions finished above them. So that's that.
Yeah, it's very possible. We're not seeing a characteristic Green Bay Packers team, but that's opening the door for a lot of other teams, not only just in the NFC North, but the entire NFC. It's really becoming evident, and we're seeing more of that each and every week. The Vikings are sitting atop of the NFC North very comfortably. Another comment here from Reversal. Last year's team was better for GB. Devontae Adams was a huge loss. There's no doubt, and that's what I was going to touch on. Thank you, Smitty, for bringing that up. Devontae Adams, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that losing Devontae Adams was a huge hit for the Green Bay Packers. He was undoubtedly the number one target for Aaron Rodgers, and he got them a lot of wins. A lot of points, a lot of fantasy points, a lot of tutties, and he performed and showed up in a lot of very clutch situations. So there's no doubt that Devontae Adams and his loss is, going to the Raiders, is going to be detrimental for the Green Bay Packers team. I don't think any of us, and maybe some of us did, I didn't expect this to be as much of a detriment as it turned out to be, though. This was a complete handicap. I mean, you're basically you're taking the legs away from the Green Bay Packers, and that's what it's turning out to be by taking away Devontae Adams. But at the end of the day, can you blame all that fault and all that failure on losing Devontae Adams? That's a lot to put on one player, don't you think?
I'll say this. Yeah, I think losing Devontae Adams shouldn't be as big as it has been. But when you don't show up to OTAs, you don't show up to training camp, you don't develop that chemistry with your new receivers, you don't coach your new young guys into becoming the next Devontae Adams, you don't build that chemistry, it's going to show. Having short passes, it's going to show. Not having chemistry with receivers, it's showing. It shows in Denver with Russ not having chemistry with his receivers. You're seeing it with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers showed up to OTAs, training camp, I think it would be a slightly different story because he would have a little bit more time with this new team he doesn't have his number one receiver to throw to. That chemistry built over years and years. So I think that's partly to blame there.
100%. Let's put this one to bed. We'll put more thought into it going into this weekend, and they have to win games. Bottom line, this is a pivotal loss, pivotal time of the season for Green Bay to lose to the Lions. Obviously, huge win for Detroit. Still a lot of games left, a lot of opportunities for teams that do have 6 losses to come back and to perform. They have to perform very well. They don't have much margin for error anymore. This includes the Lions, and obviously includes the Packers. So there's a lot of teams in this boat. A lot of teams in this boat. We'll see how they perform and see which teams crumble, and we'll see which teams can rise to the occasion. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about Josh Allen and their loss. The Bills' loss against the Jets, 20-17, heartbreaking loss. I mean, this is kind of the talk of the weekend, and I was talking to Smitty quite a bit, and this almost made him quit sports betting entirely. And thank God I didn't bet this game, because I see how the Jets are playing. The Bills are one of my most favorite teams in the NFL, and the Jets are just rolling, man. If they're beating teams like the Bills. And that puts in question, especially now you got this right elbow injury. Josh Allen is now day to day. He was projected to be the MVP. This injury could put him out of the question for that, and it could put the entire Bills season in jeopardy, because we all know that Josh Allen is the backbone of the Buffalo Bills. So how does this affect the Buffalo Bills going forward? One, with the Josh Allen injury, and two, what does this have to say? What does this say about the Jets as a team, as an offense, Zach Wilson, all of it encompassed into one? What's going on here? What does the future look like for both of these teams?
I mean, we've briefly talked about the Jets being pretty decent, getting some wins in there, sneaking in. And we're like, yeah, they're still under the radar, but we still expect all that much. We know they're much more improved. They're getting some wins in. I think after this win, they're no longer under the radar. I think they're on a lot of people's list. They're like, oh, what is this Jets team? Where do they rank? Where do they stand? So pretty impressive showing. Jets really are showing up. Zach Wilson, pretty great QB right now. He's looking good. And then Robert Saleh. I mean, talk about a great coach. Him and Dan Campbell hired at the same time. So, and you see where this Jets team's at. You see where this Lions team's at. And right now, the Jets are doing better. I'm going to put it that there. But obviously, I prefer. I'm going to put this out there. I prefer Dan Campbell over Robert Saleh. So I gotta get that out.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta admit that both these teams, and you gotta take beginner's luck into account, but you gotta also take into account what this Jets team has been through and what they've had to overcome in the past. And this is only going to make the Lions' success story that much better. And I've said this a million times. I'm not a Lions fan. I can't claim to be a Lions fan. If they go on and win a Super Bowl, win every game, get a wild card pick somehow, some way, and they get into the Super Bowl and win it, I can't take credit for being a Lions fan at that point, because that's what I'm coming out and saying. Win or lose, that's a Lions fan, right? Musa, you're a Lions fan. I know tons of Lions fans out there, and I wish them Godspeed in their recovery. But you're right, and I like the mentality, and I like the culture. We talked about culture a couple weeks ago, and the culture that Dan Campbell is bringing to this Detroit Lions team is obviously something that is very contagious, something that you can get behind real easy. And just looking at it from a brass tacks perspective, Robert Saleh just had more success quickly than Dan Campbell has. That's not to mean that they haven't both faced adversity. It doesn't mean that they won't face adversity in the future. It's just it comes at different times, and you can't really put a time frame on these types of things. So it is what it is.
A dynasty.
Yeah,
exactly.
A
dynasty. And I think that with a lot of dynasties, it didn't happen overnight. So that's one thing. I mean, for Broncos fans, for Lions fans, keep that in mind. They didn't just trade for all their players, become super good for a year, and then kind of shit the bucket the next few years and be screwed. They're taking the right approach to build a long-term team. Like the Packers. Like the Packers are on a down. This is a prime opportunity for someone to take the new crown spot in the NFC North. So just keep that in mind for all the Lions fans, Broncos fans out there.
Definitely. Be patient. Sometimes that's tough. That's tough news to swallow, but at the end of the day, it's the reality of the situation. So you got to do it. Another comment here from Reversal Gaming. Terrible loss by the Bills, But with the injury that occurred, there is some blame there. Yes, of course. And that injury is not just about this game. You got to look at this injury and how does it affect the Bills going forward. If he is day to day, maybe he takes a week off. Maybe he puts some ice on it. Maybe he gets it looked at from a specialist. You got to take these certain things into account because if you go off and you go and play this guy, Josh Allen, the man for Bills Mafia, then you could be rupturing either an old injury or you could make a existing injury even worse and turn it into a bigger problem than you already have. So a lot of things to consider there. If you're Sean McDermott, you got to be taking that into account. It's noted here that he did not practice Wednesday today. He did not show up to practice. He is basically rehabbing that elbow. So it looks like he will be he's day to day. Everything is day to day for Josh Allen and the Bills right now. And we'll have to be focusing and following that very closely because that's going to affect fantasy teams. That's going to affect future games, playoff predictions, things of that nature. So a lot of things to focus on there. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about OBJ. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know exactly what his injury is. I know it's an elbow. I know Stafford also had an elbow injury, and he fought through that during the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. So if it's a pretty similar injury to Stafford, I think he can play through it. He just needs that time off, that rest before games, and he should hopefully be fine. Now, I don't know exactly what the injuries were between both of them, so just going to put that out there.
Yeah, Josh Allen's a tough guy, too, and it has to be noted there's no two injuries that are the same exactly. You look at the athletes, obviously both what am I trying to say here? Josh Allen and Matt Stafford, they're both very tenacious athletes. They're going to play through injuries. They're going to play through a little bit of pain. They're going to get the job done, and they just have that Mamba mentality on the field. And that's something we expect to see when we watch either one of these two players, these two quarterbacks, command their teams. And we've seen it happen. We've even seen that Mamba mentality with Matt Stafford when he played for the Lions and that big win against the Browns back in the day. And you see that time and time again. You don't lose that Mamba mentality. Okay, so that's something that I do expect to see from Josh Allen. He's taken hits. I've seen him take some crazy hits, get right back up and play the next play. So I'm expecting him to not take the Dak Prescott route and say, I'm going to sit out for 8 weeks. Obviously, different injuries, different scenarios. I get it. But when you talk about Mamba mentality and being able to succumb to an injury or play through it, I think both Josh Allen and Matt Stafford rise above a quarterback like Dak Prescott in that situation. But at the end of the day, no two injuries are written the same. They're not classified or diagnosed the same either. So a lot of things to consider there. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about OBJ and the allegations that he is going to be going to the Cowboys. And Musa, I'm throwing a wild card at you here because this was not in our pregame script. But this is a hot-button issue. Jerry Jones was on the horn with executives and others about the possibility that OBJ might be heading to Dallas. And he's on their radar. He's focused on him. And this could really affect the Cowboys offense. As we all know, OBJ is a free agent, has been a free agent for quite some time. My question to you is, how does OBJ improve the Dallas Cowboys offense? Obviously, they've had some success. They need it. They need a wide receiver, and they could use one on the roster and the depth chart. What do you think OBJ has to offer the Dallas Cowboys right now?
Everything. I mean, having one great receiver is good, but it's not great because you can double team him, you can give him coverage. When you have to worry about multiple great receivers that are going to be pulling safeties, that are going to be pulling double teams, that's when you get the one-on-ones that you want, and that's when you get CeeDee Lamb wide open for touchdowns and OBJ wide open for touchdowns when they're worrying about these two great players. Now, do I think he's going to go to the Cowboys? Probably not. I think there's a lot of he's going to be with the Bills. He's going to be with the Rams again. There's so many rumors where he's going, and I don't know if he really would choose this team because I don't know. I think OBJ wants to win a Super Bowl again this year, and I think he's going to choose whatever team is most likely to do that this year.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I think so too. And there's like I said too, this is a last minute throw in here. And there's not a whole lot of, air. There's not a whole lot of news circulating around this. A lot of this is speculation, allegations, things of that nature. It's a lot of hot air right now, so we can't really – it doesn't hold a lot of weight, basically, is what I'm saying. So until we hear more about this and hear more about the possible places that OBJ will land, we all we can do is speculate. And this is our first real, I guess, taste of OBJ getting looked at by a certain team and organization. Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys there. So we'll have to see what unfolds. This is a developing thing, so we'll have to follow this one as well. But right now, there's really nothing much more to talk about regarding OBJ and the Cowboys' relations because nothing is for sure right now. So we'll leave that as at face value for now. Let's talk about Jeff Saturday as he has taken the position of interim head coach for the Indianapolis Colts after the firing of Frank Reich. And, Colts owner Jim Irsay, he's had some choice words. He had some things to say regarding Jeff Saturday, why he wants him to be the interim head coach, whether or not he's been decided to be the standing head coach to replace Frank Reich is yet to be determined. But what we have to note is there's a lot of others that are coaches in the NFL that are, in the position to where they would like to walk into a head coaching position, maybe more qualified, and that's been the hot button issue right now. And they've also talked about African American coaches and how the minority coaches are not getting the opportunity just because the owner Jim Irsay has a personal relationship with Jeff Saturday. He played for the Colts back in the day, played center for Peyton Manning. There's a lot of things surrounding this. Obviously, most of these analysts that are saying, things about, how minorities should be having the opportunities, things like that, they still don't have any bad things to say about Jeff Saturday. They really don't. Where their claims have basis is when they say Jeff Saturday doesn't have any coaching experience in the NFL, and that holds weight. That's very true. We saw this with Steve Nash and the Brooklyn Nets, which ironically was fired, around the same time that Jeff Saturday was introduced to the Colts. So we're seeing similar situations happen on opposite sides of the spectrum, or opposite feelings rather. So I guess my question to you is, how does this Jeff Saturday hiring affect the Colts' future? Obviously, their record is in shambles. Their season's over. They're playing for draft position at this point. So at the end of the day, it's not really a lose-lose. It's more or less a win-win for this season. See how Jeff Saturday does halfway through the season. Maybe win some games, maybe you don't. See him with the headset on, sidelines instead of in a commentary booth on ESPN. A little bit of change of pace for Saturday, a little bit of change of pace for the viewers. But how do you think this hiring affects the Colts, and then how do you think it affects the coaching core of the entire NFL?
I mean, what do they have to lose? They keep completely is garbage. They get the first round pick. I mean, I guess in some sense, you won't figure out if someone else might actually be a pretty good head coach, and then you wouldn't know until you have to try someone else. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's friends with the coach, so the owner, he's friends with the owner. So the owner, he probably knows the season's over. He's like, I'm gonna give my friend a shot at this. Why not? So it can't really hurt them too much, like you said, because their season's already over. They're playing for draft picks at this point, and I personally wouldn't do that because I want to figure out maybe who could my next coach be. But to speak on the point of coaching staff, I think a lot of the coaches are going to have a hard time getting behind him, knowing that maybe this one guy they probably have their favorite who they wanted to be hired and promoted from the organization, because that's normally what you see. You saw it last year. You saw it a few years ago with the Lions. They promote someone who's in the organization as the interim head coach. So I think that might play an issue with the coaches, not the ones that probably should have gotten that promotion, having an issue with him just coming in because he's a friend's owner. Why is this guy special? Just because he's friends with the owner. So I think the coaching staff might have a hard time adjusting to him and getting behind him.
Yeah, and that could also affect the chemistry within the coaching staff with the Indianapolis Colts. How accepted is Jeff Saturday going to be with the rest of the coaches, not only in the entire NFL, but with the Colts organization? And that's a question that has to be asked. We'll probably be able to see that on the sidelines. Maybe not everything. A lot of this stuff will be happening and occurring behind closed doors, but it's going to be important to note.
Hard knocks.
To see. Could be a hard knock situation. That's where you see behind the closed doors is that hard knock stuff. Yeah. So I think a Colts hard knocks, especially if Jeff Saturday's still here after this season, that could be something worth watching. So we'll look forward to that as well. Let's talk about Stafford. CTE protocols. Bucks get the big win over the Rams, a comeback win. Brady 2-minute drill, 40 seconds left on the clock. Classic Brady. Didn't expect anything less from Brady. Maybe this year we could have expected less, just seeing how pitiful this Bucks team has played, especially as far as putting points on the board, getting the ball in the end zone, being in the red zone constantly, and not being able to score, settling for field goals. What does this game have to encompass? Obviously, there was unfinished business for the Bucks here in this win, but what does this say about both these teams? Start with Stafford.
I mean, like, Stafford has been hit so many times this year. It's painful to watch. I don't think any quarterback should ever be on concussion protocol with. They're the most protected position. There's so many rules in place to keep them safe. So you got to be taking a lot of hits, or pretty bad hits, like Tua took a few weeks ago, to get thrown on concussion protocol. And that's what I just hate to see it, because Andrew Whitmore retires and all of a sudden this team just sucks. This line just sucks. They can't block. I mean, he has no time in the pocket. He's just getting eaten alive. It's to the point where I do not watch Rams game anymore, because I cannot watch him get hit that many times. And to speak to Tom Brady, I mean, they got the one done, but at the end of the day, I think both of these teams are not good teams this year. They're not contending for a Super Bowl this year, so that's that.
Yeah, big win for Brady fans. I think it's going to be a possible turnaround for the Bucks if they want to get it done. If Brady wants to put any purpose into this season, that's why he came back out of retirement. He's obviously not coming back just to play another season, just to get another go-around in the NFL. He's already had quite a few go-rounds in the NFL. He's not worried about that. He wants to win a Super Bowl, and they more or less had to win that game to keep their dreams alive. But they still have a long road ahead of them to get that done. You mentioned Andrew Whitworth. I mean, I see him on the sidelines. I see him commentating on on Thursday Night Football on Prime Video, and it looks like he's very comfortable doing that. So he might get recruited back to the Rams. Say, hey, come back, give us another go-around, because Matthew Stafford's getting his ass kicked in the pocket. We can't find anybody else.
I don't think one guy.
I mean,
we
didn't see this last year, though.
He brings a lot to the team, but they shouldn't be this bad. The line shouldn't be this bad over one person.
No, you're right.
I mean, at the same time, the line needs a lot of chemistry. Offensive lineman is probably one of the hardest positions to play, and the chemistry has to be there. They need to be on point. So potentially,
it was more of a joke, but yeah, I mean, but you're right. They have to have chemistry more than anyone else collectively on the entire team, and they gotta operate, whether it's 5 guys, 6 guys. If you got a tight end on the line with 6, or you got a double tight with 7, you're gonna have to operate as a unit. You're having anywhere from 5 to 7 guys operating as one, basically. They have to operate simultaneously. Nobody can jump, nobody can flinch once everyone's set. Even though I do see a lot of movement on the line nowadays. Someone's got to explain this to me, okay? I got a bone to pick real quick. So you've seen it a million times. I've seen it a million times. The offense will get set on the line will get set, and then something is being called from the sidelines. I don't know if they're looking at one of those big posters, or there's guys waving or doing some kind of hand signal, but all the linemen are in the 3-point, and then they sit up. They look like they're gophers looking out of a hole, and it's like they're already set. How can they go back and get de-set? I don't understand that. That should be an automatic false start. I guess not. I mean, I haven't seen it called once.
I mean,
what's going on there?
I was always taught, once their hands in the dirt, they cannot move it out. They cannot lift it.
Exactly. That's what I was taught.
If they're in a 2-point, that's different. But once they're in the dirt, especially any movement, a lot of people are not. I mean, a lot of people are going off that lineman. They're waiting for that movement, and they're trying to jump that. So, I mean, I don't understand how there's not offsides from the defense when they do that.
Right.
Because anytime I would, I mean, as a linebacker, anytime I would see a slight movement, I'm flying downhill. So I don't
It's
get that one either.
yeah. I don't know, man. I got to do some more research on that, but this has got to be somewhat of a new thing. I've seen it for a couple of years now. It's not like it's a brand new thing, but I've been seeing it. But there's got to be some kind of nonverbal communication going on between the linemen and those line judges because those aren't being called ever. It's like, okay, we're set, and now we're not set, and then now we're actually set, and then the ball gets hiked, and then if one guy goes a second early when the ball is actually hiked, then that's a false start. But there's something going on there. I got to do more research on that.
I wonder maybe because the whole team's not set and it's like the QB's not set.
It could
So
be.
it's different because there's no way they're not gonna snap the ball when there's no QB back there. So maybe that's it.
There's some kind of
So,
telltale sign going on there, and that it's being communicated to the referees, the line judges, etc. So it is what it is. We'll do more research on it and get back to you. Let's look ahead at a couple of games coming up this week in Week 10. We'll take a look at a couple games. Not going to do too much predicting right now. We want to look at a couple games. Another big NFC North matchup with the Lions and the Bears at Chicago. Chicago -3. They've been playing good. Tough loss against the Dolphins this past week. I had the Dolphins in a parlay, so I was happy about it. But I know Kalo out there, he's in the Discord. Kalo wasn't too happy about that loss for the Chicago Bears. He's a big Bears fan over there across the water. So I guess look at this game, Lions, Bears. Who do you got in this situation?
It's a tough one. I want to go with the Lions for this one. I mean, Lions they no longer have TJ Hawkinson. Got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. They got 2 picks in return, a second and a third, and they sent over 2 fourths, conditional fourth for the second one. And I mean, I'm gonna touch on this trade real quick. A lot of people are upset about it. I think we got great value for Hawkins. I hate being a selling team. I think that's the only downside of this trade. But I mean, Hawkins hasn't played a role in this offense all that much, so I don't think it's affecting the Lions. He hasn't been that key player they needed, so I don't think it will affect them against the Bears team. So hopefully they can go out there, get this win, take probably I think if they win against the Bears, they might take second in the NFC North, depending on how the Packers play, if they win or not. And it'll be a nice turnaround for the Lions if they can get it done. Although it's going to be tough with Justin Fields, a mobile quarterback, and them not having to face that too much this year. So it's going to be a challenge.
That's true. They had that break last week. We all know Aaron Rodgers is not a mobile quarterback. He's not going to run. He actually ran it a couple times, and the fact he got like 15, 20 yards on a third down, that was troublesome early in the season or early in the game. And we've seen it against the Dolphins. I mean, Justin Fields did that all by himself on the ground. He got the job done on the ground, running the ball, passing it very minimally, and he's a very mobile quarterback, very mobile, and and he does have the double threat. He can pass the ball. He does have a rocket of an arm, but we're gonna have to watch out for that. And I say we like I'm a Lions fan. The Lions are gonna have to watch out for Justin Fields on the ground. Okay, because he's a mobile quarterback. He's going to run the ball a lot, and I haven't seen a lot of success with the Lions in their run defense, especially when they're already offset. They have to notice that the quarterback is breaking through the line of scrimmage, and they have to break off of their coverage. And whether you're playing outside linebacker, corner, deep safety, whatever you got to do, free safety, whatever you got to do.
I think it'll be a true test of Hutch.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Hutch did a great job at Michigan.
Yeah, Hutch should be eaten in that situation, basically.
I mean, he did it at Michigan, so hopefully he can do it here against the Bears.
The Bears.
And
well, see, he's got to be.
I don't know why.
Yeah, outside contained.
I don't know where I heard that originally, but I love that.
I think I saw it on Saturday Night Live back in the day. Back in the day, they did a spoof on it. It could have even been back to the Mike Ditka era of the Bears, but it's been a thing for quite a while now, since the 90s or so. But the Bears and the Lions, it's going to be a contest.
It doesn't work
NFC North
with the Lions.
I know it doesn't sound as good, does it? A couple other matchups. So yeah, I'll be pulling for the Lions. I'm not a Bears fan by any stretch of the word. They're one of the teams that are on my shit list actually. So put the Bears on my shit list. Give me the Lions in that one. I think if they can score the ball, if Jared Goff can get the ball down the field and put the ball in the end zone, everyone's healthy. DeAndre Swift stays healthy. Jamal Williams, maybe he gets some touches, and you might be in good shape there. Just play defense on the run game.
Williams is right now. He didn't practice today, so we'll see.
Oh, is he not well?
No, he doesn't seem like it.
Oh
But
boy.
good news for the Lions. Jamison Williams is expected to return in December, so getting that receiver will be nice.
Yeah, you're gonna need some more receivers. They've been pretty banged up this year in the receiving core, so they're gonna need it if they want to win some games going down the stretch. They only have 6 losses. You can get a winning season still, believe it or not. If you're the Lions, or if you're even the Bears, or a lot of these teams, they have 6 losses. Towards the bottom part of the spectrum here. You have a chance to pull that season together. You just can't lose too many more games if you want to do that. You really can't lose 2 more games. You can lose 1 more, and then you can't lose anymore. So we'll see what happens there. Let's look at some of the other contests. What were you going to say? You going to say something?
The Lions have the Bills coming up, also the Jets coming up, the Vikings coming up. So I think the Lions could hopefully get it done against the Bears, the Giants, the Jaguars, the Packers again, the Panthers, and the Bears again. They can put it together, but they have a few tough games.
They do. They really have to buckle down for the Lions, and maybe you never know, man. Never know with the Lions. You guys just got to wait and see what they're capable of. Another big game, Vikings-Bills. A 7-1 Vikings face off against the Bills in Buffalo. Buffalo minus 3.5 in that one. That's going to be a dogfight. Kirk Cousins, he was shown wearing chains and drinking Hennessy on the plane. That was a sight to be seen. That was crazy. And he looked a little bit like Kirk O'Banks on the plane instead of old white Kirk from East Lansing. So that was something that I didn't expect to see that, but you can kind of expect to see that knowing Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, watching him from the early stages. He is an all-business quarterback, but he's also he's not afraid to party either. So he's going to show you that side, and we saw that. And the Vikings are playing inspired and sitting there at 7-1, comfortable at the top of the NFC North, and facing off against a banged-up Bills team. They have a good chance to make that a good game. So be watching that one as well. Who do you got in that one?
It depends on Josh Allen.
Yeah. I don't know. If Josh Allen's healthy, if he can pull himself up from the dust, from the shambles of an injury, then give me the Bills. But if not, if he's even showing us the slightest bit of injury, give me the Vikings all day.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yep, we'll have to watch that one closely too. We won't get too much into the weeds. We'll talk more next week about the recaps of all of these games. Maybe do some Instagram lives and talk about some of these upcoming games, get a parlay going, something like that. So look forward to that on the Gen Sports Network IG. But for now, we'll start to sign off, start to simmer down. So with that, Musa, do you have any final words, final thoughts for the viewers, listeners out there?
No, it's things are getting interesting. That's the best part of the football is coming up. End of the year football is the greatest. So, yeah.
The best is yet to come. So we'll focus on that, and we'll look forward to it. Just getting into the second half of the season here, so a lot of games left. This is a long NFL season, folks. So I hope you're buckled in and ready for the thick of it. We'll leave it at that, guys. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Gin Sports Network, and at Gin Promotions. Follow us all over the place. Our link tree is in the bottom of this podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Gin Pros for all the tweets, updates, etc. regarding the Gin Sports Network and all the happenings at Gin Pros. We're looking forward to getting those to you as soon as possible, as we do on a daily basis. Also, go to our website, ginsportsnetwork.com. It's in the top of your screen and also in the bottom section of this podcast. We're looking forward to seeing you guys all over the place. Get a hold of us any way you can. The website has been updated. Ladies and gentlemen, the members section has been updated. Musa is now featured in there as our NFL insider. So make sure to check that out and get some more information about us. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys here next time. But for now, I'm John Jay II with the Double Coverage Podcast along with Musa. Have a great night.